People need supplements nowadays because our lifestyles are completely different from how they were 100, even 50 years ago. People are finding themselves inside more than often than not. America has a huge issue with GMOs. We have a lot of pollutants in our food and our water supplies. We have a lot of issues that we have to be able to supplement into our daily lives. Our brain fog sets in at faster rates the less vitamin D we have. I broke my wrist last fall. I really, knock on wood, never broke bones back in the day. But now that I'm not in the sun anymore, I'm not taking that natural vitamin D. I kind of notice my bones are a bit more brittle than they used to be, and which is something I hate to have happen with the sport I play. But it's just things nowadays are just turning into that kind of way.
Very
Probably about 2 weeks after taking Clean Slate, I could notice my difference in my body. I was waking up better. I felt like I was out of a fog because I could feel it was literally pulling the toxins out of my body. That support that you can get for the joints. And to tie those two in together, when humans and animals take out the pollutants and you put in the collagens, the red beets, the colostrums, your body takes those in better and they use them to the fullest extent.
Right. I am really excited to introduce to you all on the Live, Love, Learn podcast a new guest today, Dylan from the Root brand. Now, Dylan is not only in his sort of previous life a certified trainer and nutritionist, but now he's the operations manager for the Root brand. And that's a company that I have been using ever since their launch for myself, my family, my animals who are sitting next to me now, and all my clients because I really trust them. And Dylan, you're such a great example of someone that really walks the talk. So you'll put all your knowledge on nutrition and on health into your new role and helping so many people along the way. So thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I am great. It's a early, very chilly 9 a.m. morning for us over here in Nashville, Tennessee. I will say that it's been a pretty hectic last week of weather, but it's amazing to be on the podcast, and I'm so glad to learn from you and also share whatever knowledge I might have with your audience.
Oh, thank you so much. I know how busy you have been flying about all over the place, and the weather, we're going to be touching on that today anyway. Because I'm really lucky, Dylan, that my listeners and sort of community are really passionate about health for themselves, for the animals, for the planet. And we're not talking about CO2 there. But one of the things that's such a big area at the moment is there's so many supplements on the market, and we all know that the quality varies hugely. And there's also, Dylan, a lot of advice out there that's very confusing for people. You know, there's on one side, you've got the people that say none of us should need supplements at all if we eat healthily. And then on the other side, we've got the fact, which is probably more the camp I sit in, that look, the challenges facing us all now are very different to what they were 50 years ago. And the level of pollutants that we're exposed to are very novel that we didn't have to think about, sort of probably when I was growing up. So, can we start with why do you think it's so important that people are really looking into the supplementation side of things and how it can support their health?
People need supplements nowadays because our lifestyles are completely different from how they were 100, even 50 years ago. People are finding themselves inside more than often than not. America has a huge issue with GMOs. We have a lot of pollutants in our food and our water supplies. We have a lot of issues that we have to be able to supplement into our daily lives, but also at the same time, supplements are a great key factor to enhance our lives. Obviously, if you go back 100 years, we don't have pill bottles and supplements that we can't just take every day. But now we have the luxury of being able to say, I need to go to the store, I need to buy this, I need to go online and do my research. But with all this backing of knowledge that we have, we're living longer, we're living healthier, hopefully longer than that. But supplements are just a great way to make sure that you're getting the nutrients that you couldn't get outside of those supplements. And especially with our days now, it's just much easier to source them from outside sourcing than it would be to clean food and sunlight exposure.
It's such a good point. And you started off by mentioning the weather where you are. I'm in the UK, and if I showed you outside, you would not be impressed. I mean, we haven't really, people joke about the weather in the UK, but in all seriousness, with the geoengineering side of things, We're not seeing the sun like we used to. Believe it or not, we used to see the sun a lot. And there's also a lot of concern in terms of the new environmental contaminants. And let's face it, if it's coming down from the air, it's affecting the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food that's grown. Um,
Mhm.
with your work, both with the Root brand and also and your nutritional training, are you seeing a lot more toxins that people need to be aware of now?
Oh, 100%. I mean, you gotta think we're trying to get more food into people's mouths, but we're doing that with engineering the animals, the plants that we eat. We're using chemicals to make sure that the pests don't get in there. You know, pesticides are all rampant. Our dogs even are sniffing chemicals in the playgrounds they go to play in. That being said, we also have stuff that's be polluting our air, our water streams, our food. It's a give and a take because obviously we need to be able to use some chemicals in the correct way, but it's been in such an abundance of factors, and now we're spraying things in the air that are blocking clouds. And it's kind of becoming to the wrong side of technology, and it can be harmful. And I do want to point out, I've been to London twice, and both times I did not see the sun. I want to make sure that's known. It was raining the entire last time I was at the Mind Body Spirit
Yeah.
conference. Every week, every day that week, it was just rain and clouds.
We're not always like that, I promise. I mean, I've got horses, I've got rescue horses, and anyone that's got horses, we're like farmers. We are super aware of what the weather's doing and also what it's been like because we know how much hay we're having to feed, what rugs we have to put on, how muddy the ground is. And this year is the worst I've ever seen. I mean, normally we do have a really good mixture. I am defending the UK, but it's a serious issue because I think even people that haven't really thought about it before, it's all very well the general health advice, get outside, ground, get sunlight exposure. Let's perhaps start with the vitamin D issue. But a lot of us are not getting access through either lifestyle, as you mentioned before, of being inside a lot, or with all these weird and wonderful things that are going on with the weather. We're not getting that sunlight exposure, which is putting different challenges on our body. So, are you seeing a higher demand for people with vitamin D supplementation now?
Yeah, supplementation for vitamin D. I talked to you about this before. We are actually doing a campaign for gamers because they're inside so much, staring at screens so long. They're not getting, they say you need at least 10 to 20 minutes of exposure of sunlight a day, but that's such a minimum amount. Like the vitamin D3, the exposure you're going to get from the sun is so healthy for your body, and it helps the skin, helps with fatigue, it helps with a lot of things, even bone density.
Mm.
But if you can't get that, let's say you're like me, you work in an office, you're on an airplane constantly. Obviously, I'm not going to get the vitamin D exposure I need to. I'm lucky that I play rugby, so I'm outside quite often on the weekends. But at the same time, I'm inside twice, three times as much as I used to be back in college and high school. When I was a kid, I was outside all the time, but I just can't with my lifestyle anymore. So with the vitamin D exposure I'm getting, I really have to supplement it, or I'm not going to get enough of good, pure, clean vitamin D in my body.
That's such a good point. And I think as we all go through different stages of life, you would hope as a child you are outside most of the time. We were certainly put outside and told to come back at tea time. But nowadays people aren't getting that. What do you think, Dylan, if people are watching this and they're sort of thinking, well, how do I know if I'm vitamin D deficient? Or if I've got toxin overload, because I think we can see about how the two go hand in hand. What are some of the symptoms that they might notice?
Well, so the two things with that, I'll break it down for both of them. Vitamin D deficiency specifically, and not just vitamin D, but if you're deficient in other micronutrients that you might need, you will feel that fatigue. And it's not so much as you feel tired, because that is something that people have like confused, like, oh, I'm not vitamin D deficient. I had a long week last week, or my weekend was long. I went out with my friends. Now, vitamin D deficiency is like you're sluggish throughout the day. Your responses are slow. If you're any kind of active through workouts, walking, running, anything like that, you'll notice that your fatigue sets in faster and your recovery time to be able to do your activities are much slower. Brain is a major thing. Our brain fog sets in at faster rates the less vitamin D we have. Something that I've noticed, I broke my wrist last fall. I really, knock on wood, never broke bones back in the day, but now that I'm not in the sun anymore, I'm not taking that natural vitamin D. I kind of notice my bones are a bit more brittle than they used to be, which is something I hate to have happen with a sport I play, but it's just things nowadays are just turning into that kind of way.
Very true. And one of the things, I mean, one of the absolute flagship products that you've got, and I want everyone to know about this, can we talk about the Clean Slate? Because when you're talking about supplementation,
I got mine too.
yeah, I honestly, none of my family go anywhere without this, and I'm not just joking. It's so, so important. But before we get into the details of the Clean Slate, how important is it for people to realize that for their body to absorb the micronutrients, the vitamins, and the minerals, that we need to take care of the toxin overload at the same time?
So that was going to be the next part. Obviously, micronutrient and vitamin D deficiencies are amazing to talk about, and you have to combat that. But at the same time, even if you're taking in good nutrients, if you have pollutants or heavy metals or toxins in your body, you can't absorb the good nutrients at the same rate. Or you'll have actually a good one to talk about before we get to clean slate. Do you know what Hashimoto's is? It's
Yeah, but please
okay, so
explain for the listeners because some people might not. Yeah.
Hashimoto's is you have issues with your thyroid. You can't produce what's called selenium. When you can't produce selenium, there's issues for that, but a lot of the leading issues are from heavy metals, lead and mercury. When you have that, your body is basically out of whack, is to put as simply as possible. That's not because you're deficient in anything, it's because you have an abundance of pollutants in your body. And if you can't produce the selenium you need, your body's not going to feel the way it needs to do. So, kind of transitioning into this, if you have a detoxer of heavy metals and pollutants and toxins in your body, if you can pull out those lead and mercury levels and reduce those, then your selenium actually picks up. Your body, the thyroids are working properly, and the nutrients that you're taking in, the vitamin Ds, you can actually absorb those better, and you have more what's called bioavailability, which I'm sure you'll hear that word quite often in this podcast here.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, before we move back on to, because I know I've diverged off a bit, but I think it's really important to understand because there's so many detox protocols on the, available to people now, and it can be quite overwhelming. And then people are worried about, if they're taking something to detox, do they have to take a binder with it? Are you able to give us an overview about for this clean slate about how it works to help us detox our bodies and how great it is to use on a daily basis to keep out because we're constantly being exposed, aren't we?
Yeah, so my personal experience with Clean Slate, I actually, since I was in wrestling, I was in sports, when I heard the word detox, I never thought about detoxing my toxins. I thought I was detoxing my gut. I thought I was
Yeah.
like pulling things out and flushing my system. I thought it was about doing juice cleanses and stuff like that. But even before I started taking Immunofen, which I have in my bottle here for Immunofen, but before I started taking that, which has vitamin D3 in it, I was just starting out with Zero In and Clean Slate. Uh, Probably about 2 weeks after taking Clean Slate, I could notice my difference in my body. I was waking up better. I felt like I was out of a fog because I could feel it was literally pulling the toxins out of my body. I Duquesne makes fun of me. He's one of my best friends, Dr. Christina Ram's son. He, the first week, warned me, don't go too heavy on the detox because it does flush your system. He said titrate up 2 to 3 drops, but I started with 10 drops just right away.
Me too.
And I felt that. It was almost like I had the flu for a day. I just like it crushed my body. So that being said, a good detox, a good strong detox is something that you'll notice. And if you don't notice it, we always tell people to get off it for a week. You'll prove to yourself the difference in your body when those toxins come back in, they start building back up the pollutants. As for a binder, stuff like Clean Slate, you don't really need that. It is a product. I don't like to call it a one-stop shop because being someone who's familiar with nutrients, you always need to have something in every category. I like to supplement a lot of stuff in my life, but it really is a pretty close thing of a one-stop shop that if you're going to try to refresh your journey of your life, get into a new fitness or new health regimen of your life, Clean Slate's the perfect way to start because we are so prevalent, like you mentioned, all the geoengineering problems, all the pollutants, all the toxins, all the heavy metals. It's just prevalent today. And I know I'm rambling too much, so I'll stop for your listeners, and I know I'm talking pretty fast.
No, it's fantastic. And this was the first product that I tried from the, and I've done so many different detoxes over the years. And I felt quite lucky that I didn't notice much myself, but because I sort of do my research before I put anything into my body, and then if I do like it, I'm all in. So I went straight for the 10 drops twice a day, and I was fine. However, at the time, Dylan, I had a 17-year-old Labrador dog, And
Hmm.
because of the work I do, she was born with some deformities and things, so she'd had some challenges in her life and had to have some operations. But she was fed a really good diet. She was on a lot of supplements anyway, and even at 17, she was very healthy. Or I think she was 16 when she started this. And when we started giving her the clean slate, even doing everything well, because at that stage Root didn't have the pure clean pets, so we were using this for the animals as well. I kid you not, the difference within a couple of days of my old dog, her arthritis was much better. She was literally skipping across. And my husband, who's quite a skeptic about things like this, he literally couldn't believe it. And I love animals because you don't get the placebo with those. There's nothing wrong with the placebo, but the results are so clear that, she hadn't read the research papers.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I think it's a good point to talk about the placebo because placebo works both ways. If your brain is going to tell you this is not going to work, you're going to think every way possible that it's not going to work. Or the vice versa of that. If you're telling yourself this is going to cure me, this is going to do what I need to do, the brain is a powerful mechanism to say that's what it's doing. But
Yeah,
you're right. A dog, a cat, like your animals, your horses, they don't know what you're giving them. They just know
yeah,
that you're putting drops in their water, you're putting stuff in their food, and they're taking it. That's all they know. They don't know what the outcome will be. So I love that. I might have our Bill and Coo department use that for some of our sales stuff, just because that's a great way to say it. You just see the differences.
you do.
Um, as far as our animals, I had a Great Dane back in the day. He lived to be 13, which is quite a bit older than Great Danes should be, but he had horrible arthritis problems. He also had tumors setting in by that age, and it's just I'm not sure how it is over in London for dog parks, but they spray chemicals all
Yeah,
over the dog parks, and I know what they're trying to do. It's all for the look and the feel of the park. They want to make sure there's no weeds. They want to make sure that the grass is growing as green. But I mean, the way they do that is by spraying chemicals and pesticides and everything like that on there. And unfortunately, our furry friends are much closer to the ground. They're surfing the ground all the time. So they're pulling in more pollutants and toxins than we even do. Pure Clean Pets is a great thing. And if I would have had it, I'm not sure if you're using our Bill and Coo Longer Lives, soon to be called Best Lives, but that collagen and red beet powder is amazing for the joints. That support that you can get for the joints. And to tie those two in together, when humans and animals take out the pollutants and you put in the collagens, the red beets, the colostrums, your body takes those in better and they use them to the fullest extent. So that's bit of a tangent there, but no, it's such a great thing to be able to help our furry friends, but also know the difference that it's making to them because you can see your dog,
absolutely.
becoming more spry. So that's a great thing to say. I love that.
Yeah, no, it is. And today for everyone really, because it's the first time we've had Dylan on the channel, I really wanted to give people an overview of how these things fit together. So removing the toxins is always for me the starting points and keeping up with that because let's face it, we're exposed to them on a regular basis. So having something that's safe to use every single day, like the clean slate for us or the pure clean pets for our animals is key. But the thing I get asked most about at the moment, Dylan, which I'd like to cover for the next section, is the vitamin D.
Mhm.
And you, in the Root brand, you've got vitamin D in quite a lot of your products. But can we just start about why it's so important for the body and the different types? Because you've got D2, D3.
Yeah. So first thing, vitamin D3 is sourced from the sun. That's the main way you're going to get your vitamin D. In my opinion, that's the healthiest way. It's the most direct, natural form of getting your vitamin D3. That being said, we've already kind of discussed on it. People don't get that as often as they should. There is barriers between us. There's work, there's life. So vitamin D3 is actually the vitamin D that is in our products. The three products that are really prevalent with that is the Zero In, the Immune Defense Shield, and really the Natural Barrier Support that you'll find those in there. The D3 that we have is slightly different than D2. It's called calcifediol, and that's the level in your blood that's going to be absorbing that. And so that's what's going to be helping your body with fatigue. That's going to be helping with the bones, the skin, everything like that is going to be from there. And vitamin D3 is the best form of bioavailability that you can get for the calcifediol. That's in so many words the difference and what our products have.
Yeah. And I know you can't go into commercial secrets and things, but obviously there's a lot of concern, quite rightly so, with the quality and where things are sourced from contamination risks, but also, is it plant or animal derived? Is it a synthetic made in the lab, or is it coming from natural sources? What can you tell us about that for your D3?
So our D3, I love talking about how we make our products better and how we assure at being with our part of our company, you understand that we have purchased our manufacturing. So we go straight from sourcing that Dr. Ram has formulated the products. So she has a hand in the formulation. She makes sure that the procedures she laid out for the products are followed at manufacturing, and we take the products directly from manufacturing to our locations for shipping to our customers. So unlike a lot of companies that outsource the sourcing, outsource the manufacturing, we have a hand in each ingredient and in each formulation of sourcing for each of our products, which doesn't seem like a lot, but a ton of companies out there want to do the cheaper methods. They want to do the roundabout way, the synthetic ways. They want to do the cheapest possible form, and that's usually going to be found in the D2 version of that. And it's actually a great thing to look into between the differences of D2 and D3. Something that a lot of people don't understand is the levels of bioavailability for the calcifidiol in D3 is literally twice as much in most cases than D2. Meaning if your supplement is lacking in D3, you're most likely going to need twice as much of that vitamin D sourcing than you would in products like our Immunofin Shield or in our Natural Barrier Support. So that's kind of a rundown, but for anyone who's listening and doesn't understand that, it's a huge deal for us to own our manufacturing and to have a hand in their process. Because even if you don't own your manufacturing, if you can't see them doing it, if you can't be the first leg of what has to happen, you don't understand the process they're doing. They could have contaminants around their ingredients. They could have chemicals in the plant. So that's one of the main things for us.
I love it. So let's talk through some of those products that you mentioned then. I take the natural barrier support. I love that actually. I really love it because I love the fact that it's powder and you can add it to the water. And then you
Mm.
mentioned the zero in that I've got here that I equally love, and the immune defense shield. So can you just give us a little bit of an overview of those three so that people could understand where might be the best starting point for them with
Yeah.
always Slate?
So the biggest thing, if you're wondering if you should start with our products, obviously Clean Slate, that's the one I would say go to the first. But if you don't want to do that, if you're kind of skeptical, Zero In is probably the best thing to start onto it because you do feel that immediate effect. That 15 to 30 minutes after you take it, you will feel the effects of less brain fog, less fatigue, more alertness, less anxiety too, just because the dopamine and serotonin levels are boosting up. But that does have D3 in it. And over exposure to that product to 2 to 3 months, we've had a ton of people come back to us and say that even if they don't take our product for a week, let's say
Mm,
they're traveling, that D3 to get that brain fog and fatigue away, mixed in with the velvet bean seed, the mucuna, the L-Dopa, those combinations of ingredients and what they do to the body have a lasting effect to how your body's going to operate and the fatigue you feel. So that's one I would think is the easiest start because you can truly feel and see a difference in your day to day with
yeah,
just the first time taking it. That being said, the reason I have this handy with me is because I just got done traveling and I'm actually doing more events this weekend. Anytime I travel, I take my Immunofin Shield because it has the D3, it has the K2, quercetin, all that stuff that we don't have to get into today. But I'll take 2 to 3, if not 4 of these at a time if I feel like I have a cold or a cough or a flu
yeah.
coming up because it really helps my body rebound. It helps me get back to the stasis I want to be at. And then the last one that you mentioned, natural bear support. I take that one as needed, not every day, but as needed is actually becoming more of a weekly thing. For people who don't know, our natural bear support has vitamin C, it has zinc, and it has vitamin D in it. That being said, I think it has like a 400% daily value. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if our daily values are different for the UK and the US. Well, that's a huge amount of the daily value. So the serving size is very small. The daily value you're getting for vitamin D is massive. So the benefits you're getting are much more prevalent than anything else. And just so people who are listening understand, Zero In is a pill form, so you know exactly what you're
Yeah,
taking.
like that.
Immunity Shield is a pill, and then Natural Birth Support is actually a powder just to break that down. So you can really play with how you're taking them and you can take them when you need to, but that's kind of the breakdown of those 3 products.
Yeah, fantastic. And everyone needs one of those in their toolkit because I'm like you, if I'm going to be traveling or got some extra stress on or something, then I love the zero in. But the natural barrier support is something I've always got in my toolkit because again, as soon as you can use it preventively as well to keep yourself topped up, it's
And my
fantastic.
bad.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So you mentioned a bit there with the immune defense shield. One of the things I think that makes the root brands so unique and special really is the way the ingredients are put together and complement each other. And there is a full product range, and we can go more into this in different shows. If people are interested, let us know. But since you've been working for Root, what has surprised you and what are you most pleased about to see how the ingredients are put together and how they support the way our body's meant to process a lot of this information?
Well, so most companies that don't really care, but the people, I don't want to say that, it's just talking bad about companies, but we want to give you the most bang for your buck, meaning the thing that we're claiming that we're going to do for our products will be most prevalent to you in the bioavailability that's found in the product. And also the ingredients that tandem with each other. Zero in is probably a great one to start with because we just talked about it. So you have your L-theanine, you have your N-acetyl L-tyrosine. The N-acetyl version of L-tyrosine is actually the most bioavailable form. So we're giving you the most bioavailability in those two right there. They tandem with the L-dopa precursor, which is called velvet bean seed, the mucuna powder. If you put that all together with your vitamin D3, your brain is producing more dopamine, more serotonin, but it's using that D3 the most efficient way possible to get you out of that brain fog. Most companies don't do that. They'll just throw a bunch of buzzwords in there. They'll put lion's mane plus this, and say, buy this because look at all we got. Where in reality, you need to have the list of ingredients that bounce off each other. Same thing with this. We have our, I believe it's 6 milligrams. Yeah, 6 milligrams of what's called NAD that helps with the mitochondria, like helping reproduce its cells. At a cellular level, the more production you have, the more use you have, the better your D3 is going to be consumed in the body and used at that same level. So it's just another example of how we work in tandem. My favorite product actually is Crush. So it doesn't
Okay.
have vitamin D, but it has a chemical called HMB, which is a natural chemical in the body, and it has what's called L-leucine. That's the amino acid for protein building synthesis, for lean muscle building. And HMB is the bioavailable use of that same amino acid. To have both those in the same product with every other ingredient, it works in a symbiotic state to where they work with each other to make the most bioavailability for that product. Those are just a couple of examples of our products, which I haven't really seen on the market anywhere else. But when you have those ingredients together, your body consumes them and uses them at the most cellular level to make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck at the end of the day.
Yeah, just tell us a little bit more then, because I haven't tried the crush yet. So what is the crush? Tell us a little bit more about that, because I think people are going to want to know.
I don't have that with me, unfortunately, but so Crush is our amino acid product. That's
Yeah,
kind of my favorite thing. I was taking that as a kind of a guinea pig to show like how it works even before we launched it. So
yeah,
Crush is 7 of the 9 essential amino acids. The essential amino acids are the EAAs. It's not the BCAAs. I'm not gonna go too far into that, but with that, you also have juniper berry. You also have glutathione, which both of those are really good for oxidative stress. You have HMB, like I just already talked about, which is a chemical in the body for protein synthesis absorption. And then you also have tetrasod phytoplankton, also known as marine-based phytoplankton.
right.
Uh, that one specific ingredient is good for ATP recovery. And the way I describe it is if you sprint 100 meters and you walk back, how fast is your body going to be able to recuperate and to use its energy sources again to give you the ability to do that same sprint? And how long can you do that over time without wearing down, you know? Um, so I know I talk, it's probably gibberish to a lot of people who listen to that, so I'm sorry about that, but that's a brief rundown of what Crush is.
Yeah, and they're really, really important. So I'm going to have to check that one out. So I'll report back on that next time. So one thing I just also wanted to touch on is gut health, because obviously we've got to look after our guts. It's as important as the toxins because the toxin removal is going to affect your gut microflora massively. But how important is gut health in terms of making sure if you're taking supplements that your body's going to be able to absorb them?
Well, if you have microbiome issues of your gut, you're not really absorbing anything. The reason Zero In works as well as it does is because it has the gut to brain function of being able to absorb those ingredients to be able to use for your brain. Same thing with any kind of other product. If your gut health does not function properly, you're not functioning properly as a human. You have to be able to recognize that. There's things that you can see about that. Obviously, there's irritability in the stomach. There's issues that you can have with the gut. There's bloating. If you've noticed that you're sluggish in the day, a lot of times it's due to what you're eating.
Hmm.
Uh, and a lot of times what you're doing to yourself is you're blocking off the pathways to be able to receive good nutrients. I mean, we have products that can help with that too. We have colostrum is a really good thing for gut health. We have the Restore, which is high levels of turmeric. A lot of stuff like that helps bind stuff. So like when you're taking immune defense shield, if you're feeling like your body's not taking in properly, maybe look to Clean Slate for taking away those toxins, or maybe look to your gut health, maybe look to what you're eating, because there's a lot of answers that you can find that you'd be surprised about. I even when I was a nutritionist and training people, my knowledge about gut health was lacking, and I had to do a lot more research on that because a lot of things that I thought were mundane, a lot of things I thought were I used to when I was like into lifting heavy and training people, I did a what's called IAFYM. If it fits your macros, it doesn't matter what you eat. But then looking more into it, it doesn't matter if it just fits your macros. It's a lot about how can you make your macros fit you. Don't just take a bunch of saturated fats, unsaturated fats, like definitely no trans fats, but a lot of things that you're taking into your body will be the difference of how you take in nutrients.
It's so important. And I think this is what I love is just looking at, everyone's got different challenges that they're facing at the moment, but there's a few common themes that run through all of us that we need. And I think, the removing the toxins for the clean slate and getting a good source of vitamin D, we know is involved in virtually every metabolic function in the body to keep you healthy and keep you coping with all the stress we're all under. So I think we've covered a lot for everyone now. What have I missed, Dylan, that you want to tell anyone about the Root brand?
Well, one of the biggest things, and I'm gonna kind of plug this, we got a new thing coming was called Fitness Without Fillers. It's a campaign that I'm running specifically,
Love that.
and it's really talking about how our products don't have fillers. We don't have additives. We don't have those flavors that make it different. One thing about Crush, you'll notice it tastes like amino acids. It tastes
Yeah,
like it should talk. There is no electric blue raspberry that's gonna make you like there's no giant scoopers. If you notice on all of our products, the serving sizes are teaspoons.
it's
It's
so true. It's brilliant. They last when you, sorry to interrupt, but I just want to get this across to people that when you look at the shop, and I'll give the link below that you can see, all the products in the shop, and I'm here to help advise if you need special advice. But the serving sizes are tiny, so they're really cost effective because they last you for ages. So don't be put off by that. Just look how many serving sizes are on there because you haven't got all these rubbish fillers in there.
exactly. Most of the time, people don't understand the nutrients they're getting from the supplements are tiny in comparison to how big those scoops are in those containers, those jugs. The majority of what you're eating are the additives, the fillers, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
The stuff you don't really need in there. I mean, if your powders you're taking are a different color than what you're assuming should be, most likely that's a red flag. Another
yeah,
thing I want to talk about for our company, which is a huge standard for worldwide, is our certifications. Certifications are a good thing to notice for products. We have BSCG, which is banned substance. It's a worldwide acknowledged product. It's Olympic standard. So we actually partner with some Olympic teams like the Hungary Olympic team. These things are keys to seeing products. If you look for a product online just through research or through word of mouth, and it seems like it doesn't have anything backing it, most likely there's a reason for that. Either the company didn't want to put the time and effort into it, which already is a red flag, or two, they failed their tests for the banned substances, or they didn't get certified for whatever reason. And that would just be a red flag in my mind for other products that we make sure that we go through all the hoops to jump through for all that. And we are trying to work for certain products for NSF testing too. Um, Not going to touch too much on all that because I know it's going to come in the future. But for our products, be on the lookout for the new Fitness Without Fillers. Check out our product certifications and just look through our product line. Like you said, there's going to be a link in your, I'm assuming, comment
yeah,
section or bio.
yeah.
Perfect.
Absolutely. And the final thing I wanted to touch on, look, there's so much information here, but Dylan, you're fantastic. And you know, you are a really good example of someone who's, you know, really passing on the knowledge and just trying to help people. This company are fantastic. The amount of free education you get access to. I just wanted to mention, Dylan, that in times here where people have all got different pressures, that this company has got an absolutely unique coming to market method. So anyone who orders a product, you don't have to be on subscription. There are advantages of being on subscription to save you money, but you don't have to. You don't even have to buy a product to get a referral link. So if someone's watching this and they really need help with their health, they can get their own referral link by using mine below, and then you can then earn money, get your products for free. So there's no barrier to entry to anyone. And I don't know any other company that does that.
No, so something to touch on that too. My fiance has one, Branda, so she has her own account and I have my account. We signed her up underneath me. Every product I buy is actually through her account, so I get that 15% back to me. It just cool things that we do to help our community because we understand that it's not just something to say, go buy a product.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Nowadays, it's really tough to be able to afford supplements because that's what they are. They're supplemental to your health. So a lot of people take those out of their lives because they can't afford them.
Mm.
So something that we do for our root infrastructure is we try to give people the ability to earn their own income
Yeah.
on the side. And it's passive too. There's nothing you really have to do
No.
if you don't need to, push it. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too.
I just really wanted to mention that to people because it's a very different model. So there's no barrier to entry to people. If you know, you can get your own link. You use my link below. If anyone needs any advice on that, just contact me. I'll talk you through it. So you can then find a way to fund your products for free if you can't afford them. And anyway, every time someone uses your link, you're going to get commission, and you can either use that for yourself or you can pass it forward to someone else as well in need.
And I do want to mention, because you talked about our subscription service, Root Prime subscription is our monthly subscription that will trigger a monthly order for you each day. There are benefits, and I'm not going to go too much into it because next week we're going to be launching a brand new thing. So that Root Prime subscription is going to have a new benefit for every product on the market. There's going to be a huge thing for anyone who is already on RPS, and anyone who isn't on RPS is probably going to want to join it. It's going to be pretty massive. So tune into our RPS call next week.
I love it. I love it. And this is what it's all for. It's all helping each other out. You know, we're all in this together. There are really good companies out there, you know, sort of corporations get a really bad rap these days. Yes, there are a lot of bad ones, but there's a lot of good ones that are really trying to do good in the world. And I know for a fact that Root is one of them. Thank you so much for your time today, Dylan. I know you've been traveling like mad and incredibly busy. Is it all right with you if I ask people to put any questions in the comments below this video? My details of how to reach out for me and get any help will be there. The link will be there. But I'm very happy to persuade Dylan to come back again and answer any other questions about other products if you want it. So don't be shy.
No, I would love to do that. It's been very fun. And so, yeah, if anyone wants to ask questions, Catherine here has my direct contact. And I can also come back on just to let everyone know, as a personal trainer, group fitness instructor, nutritionist, and I also have been in a plethora of sports. So I'm a huge nerd of putting things in my body, exporting things, and, doing a lot of great deeds of athletic stuff. So whatever you want to ask, most likely I can have an answer for you, or I can look something up and be knowledgeable about the answer too.
I love it. Thank you so much, Dylan. And thanks so much for everyone. I love it because when I've got tools like this in my toolkit, yes, I'm aware of all the problems we're being bombarded with, but this is one thing I don't have to worry about because I've got the tools to protect myself and my animals. So that's invaluable. Thank you, Roots. Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. And above all, stay curious and stay free.